Good evening, everybody. Could somebody close the front door, please? Though there might be some people coming yet. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Portishead Residents Annual Meeting. We have got quite a number of people online, so I'm relying on you over there, Julie, to let me know if anybody wants to speak from up there while I'm chairing the meeting. Oh, is that better? Sorry. Right, the first item on the agenda is an annual update by the chairman of the council. Before we move on to that, as is now the norm, the residents' meeting will be chaired by a member of the public, and I'll be asking for nominations in a minute. I hope you'll use the opportunity this evening to let the council know your priorities for the coming year. You tell us of any particular concerns and raise any issues that need attention, as well as sharing any positive stories and details of ongoing projects that we or other residents may not be aware of. Councillors may wish to answer some questions tonight, but if not, we'll listen to what you've said and report back to you at a later date. Please keep your remarks polite and respectful. I'm confident that no one will waste valuable time this evening by making attacks on individuals, but it's your evening, it's up to you. I will formally close the meeting at 10 o'clock or before 10 o'clock. Please note that anyone may speak, but if any vote is taken, then only Portishead residents on the electoral register are eligible to vote. So the first thing we need to do is to approve the minutes of the last two residents' meetings held on May the 8th, 2019 and May the 26th, 2021. Has anybody got any changes they wish to be made? Nope. So can I have a proposer to accept the minutes of the two meetings? Thank you, Sue. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Tina. Can I just remind you that if anybody wants to speak, please give your names first, because Amy is taking the minutes and she doesn't know everybody or hardly anybody who's here. So I'll present a very brief report on the highlights of the past year, but I don't want to take up much of the time because this is your opportunity to have your say. So finally, after years and years of waiting, the Wheels and Skate Park is becoming a reality. The plans have been drawn up, fundraising has begun in earnest, and the planning applications submitted. The main hall, where you are now in the folk hall, has been transformed from the dreary room it was into an impressive heritage centre, displaying the history of Portishead and many local artefacts. The draft Portishead Neighbourhood Plan was published at the end of March, and we've just concluded our statutory 6-week public consultation period. We held 4 public events during that time, 3 in the folk hall, 1 in the library. The overall response we've had is one of approval. The document was well written and the objectives well thought out and valuable. So thank you to everyone who completed the surveys. And I'd also like to thank the many volunteers who gathered the evidence that we had to provide to back up our policies. So our job now is to analyse the comments we've received, both from the public and the statutory consultees, and amend the document where required. It will then go to North Somerset Council for approval, then on to a government appointed independent examiner before finally coming back to the public for a referendum. We've used the Commonplace Toolkit to hold a number of online consultations over the past year. So as well as the neighbourhood plan, we've had one on Slade Road playing fields, a proposed pump track at Merlin Park, the lake grounds, one on transport issues and so on. Portishead now has a traffic warden. New CCTV cameras have been installed in the town, replacing the old, obsolete and often non-functioning cameras. These pictures sent back to the control centre in Weston are very impressive, and with direct links to the police are enabling much faster and more effective responses to criminal and antisocial activity. We've had a very successful year of grant awards. We've awarded over £108,000 to many different organisations and community groups who provide a service to the residents of Portishead. Applicants have to submit a detailed request for funds, which is subject to very careful scrutiny by the Grants Committee before any proposal is made to award funds. The wellness project has been going well. It's finally brought together lots of interested parties, local GPs, citizens advice, church leaders, youth centre, police, voluntary advice, North Somerset, and lots of others. We've set up a trial community hub in the High Street, which is temporarily located at the Methodist Church. This, as we said before, is a trial paid for by government funding by North Somerset Council to assess the needs and desire for a permanent community hub in Portishead. We would welcome any residents who want to ask advice about something or just to have a chat. Rooms are also available to hire by startup community groups and other organisations, such as Citizens Advice will be there at specific times each week to offer advice to residents. We've reached agreement with North Somerset Council for a number of road improvements, such as road markings, which will take place this summer, the build out on Avon Way, and we've started the process to agree a new zebra crossing on Bristol Road. Improvements to the lake grounds are underway. New playground equipment is being purchased and has been purchased and is being installed. And finally, as I hope you've seen, the council is organising 2 events to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. On June the 2nd at about 9:15 in the evening, Gordano District Scouts will be lighting a beacon at Battery Point. And on June the 3rd, we are hosting a free event at the Portishead Showfield from 1 to 8 p.m. And I think, Ben, you said you wanted to add a few words at that point. Did you? Sorry? Yep. If you have to come to a microphone.
So we're running a free event. We're running a free event on Friday the 3rd of June at Showfield from 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. Consists of crafting stalls, food stalls, drink, with live entertainment all day from the local rock projects, varying from kind of kids playing, local choirs to kind of the adults kind of finishing off the night with a grand finale to be witnessed, as they say. I've not seen any of it yet. All I know is it's going to be quite special. So we also kind of there for young children, kind of 2-year-olds and below and upwards, kind of face painting, Punch and Judy, bouncy castle, and everything. So effectively, everything that hopefully everyone will want. We'll get something out of the day. Hopefully the weather will be nice, not really like it is now. It'll generally be an enjoyable day. I'll kind of all come together and celebrate something that's never going to be achieved again, definitely in my lifetime. Probably most of us, and celebrate the Conn the Queen's Jubilee. Like Paddy says, obviously it is an event for the whole community, so please do come along and support it, and all the local kind of businesses that are coming along in groups. This is kind of a thank you as well to a degree, kind of the community and also the businesses that have kind of had a hard time over the past few years due to COVID, obviously, as well. So some of them will be there as well, etc. We obviously need help with kind of publicising it. It is all over social media, in the press, etc. There are leaflets on the back, So if you kind of live in a prominent location where people regularly walk past your house and window, take a leaflet and pop it in the window will be appreciated. I'll be doing a walk along with others the weekend to get kind of into various different shops and pubs and cafes, etc. Volunteers, we are desperately in need of volunteers. I feel like I'm repeating this question because all they ever do seem to appeal for is volunteers. At the moment, we've got about 6. That's it. So we've asked various groups, which obviously can't, people are away on holiday, etc. We are desperate for volunteers. So if you can give half an hour of your time, an hour of your time, please do let me know or one of us know. We'll need volunteers from 10 AM in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night. Most of it will be done by the key people, kind of just making sure the bins are emptied, walking around, making sure kind of people are generally just having fun and behaving themselves, not doing anything crazy. Also marshalling the car park, which will be open as well, opposite Showfield on Clapton Lane, the Cordania School. So if anyone kind of can volunteer, or knows anyone can kind of volunteer some time, it will be greatly appreciated. Penny. Sorry, my head's gone blank. We are wanting to donate to a local charity, a local good cause in the town. There's plenty of them, from Portishead in Bloom to the Christmas lights to, you know, the Legion, etc. So we're asking people to kind of donate a penny in charity, but we also kind of want people, we want the town to nominate who the charity it goes to is. I need to fill in some forms in the next 48 hours or so that I've had through today, who would nominate the charity. So anyone wants to kind of have a think about it throughout the meeting, kind of just say who you'd like it to be nominated towards. We'll then kind of have a vote at the end of the evening, whoever's less than overwhelming favourite. And we'll then kind of whatever is raised on that day, we'll give it to that local charity or good cause. It has to be a charity or good cause. It can't be an individual, just because the stipulations that have been set down to us. So yeah, anyone any ideas, please do let us know. Otherwise, that's it. So yeah, thank you. What in general, in terms of what's volunteer, if you kind of contact me, I can give you my details at the end. I'll take your details down. Yeah, it's on the website. We are going to push it as well. We are going to start pushing it again. We have put several requests out on social media and asking etc. So we have. Yeah.
Everybody assume everybody's on social media.
Yeah, yeah, well which is why I'm kind of getting all these leaflets out even more. There are leaflets scattered around in various notice boards and shops. We're kind of doing this the whole walk of the town at the weekend. And I mentioned I was reading this meeting last night, about 40 people. Just mentioned then where I got half of some volunteers. So I'm kind of passing it around, so relevant officers and councillors. So yeah, I'm not just kind of sticking on social media, that's for sure. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So I'd like to ask the people present if they'd like to nominate somebody to chair the remainder of the meeting. Have I got any nominations, please?
Can someone nominate Paul Morgan if he's willing to do it?
Anybody else? No? Well, in that case, we don't need to take a vote. And so over to you, Paul. Do come and sit in the hot seat.
I've been caught slightly unawares on this tonight, but is there any chance somebody could lend me a pen and a bit of paper to start with? Firstly, I'd like to thank the meeting for the trust that they've put in me to chair the meeting. As previously, I'd just like to state that this is a public meeting, it's not a council meeting. However, councillors are entitled to speak as members of the public. If I could just also mention that there is, of course, no time limit on people speaking, but I would ask people to be respectful of others who may want to speak following them. And lastly, the same as I've said in previous years, if somebody wishes to ask a councillor a question, I will invite Paddy to nominate one councillor, and I will allow them to answer. And finally, I'd probably like to just invite Paddy to take her seat with the everybody else. Can I just clarify, do we have a clerk here, Paddy? Amy's taking the minutes and it's Julie's acting clerk, okay. Well, I think probably the fairest way to do it is, because we have got people in the hall and we have also got people online, is that we alternate for people who wish to speak. So could I invite anybody firstly in the hall who wishes to say anything to do so? Should we see if there's anybody online who wishes to speak first?
I would like to, if that's possible.
Yeah, can you just give your name for us, please?
Yeah, it's Lisa Stanley, and I'm speaking on behalf of Portishead Community Fridge.
Okay, Lisa, the floor is yours.
Hi. Sorry, and I have to apologise. I'm actually at football training, so it's taken me a little while to connect. So I've only just managed to join you. So sorry if I missed any beginnings. I just briefly wanted to update anybody who is interested on Portishead Community Fridge and where we are at the moment. So we set up as a group funding. We've had funding from Co-op to the tune of £3,000 last year, and we'll have £1,000 this year, to set up a community fridge, which is to save food from going to waste. Long term, our aim is to have a unit outside of Co-op up on Avon Way. That's just gone through Portishead Town Planning and is due to go to North Somerset. So we should have a decision by the end of this month. And then the plan is to put in a fridge, freezer, shelving there. And what we do is go to local stores. So currently we go to Waitrose, to Tesco in Clevedon, Tesco on West Hill, Co-op on the Marina, Co-op on Avon Way, and Sainsbury's, and collect their surplus food. And the idea is that that's all food that would otherwise go to waste. And we put it in that fridge, freezer on shelving for residents to take freely. So there is no criteria. It's just a green eco scheme. Because we couldn't set up with, we couldn't find any siting within the town, we set up a surplus table. So we've been running that every week, and we started every other week in October. We now run that every week on a Saturday. We do one from outside St. Joseph's Church on West Hill, and the other week we're outside Somerset Hall in the precinct. And today we've saved 4 tons, over 4 tons, nearly 5 tons of food from going to waste, and just picked up by residents. So it was really just to make people aware of what's happening. Hopefully by July we'll be in situ outside Co-op, and then we would encourage any allotment users, anybody with surplus food, to make contact with us so we can drop that off. And something that started as a green initiative is also one of need more and more. I'm aware that we've got the food bank, and we work alongside the food bank. Actually, if they have spare food on a Friday that would be wasted, we take that, and they do an amazing job. They do a fantastic job. We're not trying to replicate or replace the food bank by any means, but we now do have queues of 20, 25 people on a Saturday morning ready to pick up from us. Some of those are because they just don't want food going to waste. Some of them are because they need it. So it was really, I just wanted to pop along and just really let people know what we're doing. If you see us appearing and sort of some some structure going up outside of Co-op up on Avon Way. That's what it's about. And hopefully we'll use it a little bit as a social hub as well. And our long-term aim is to get more food grown in the town, more food shared within the town, cutting down on food miles, encouraging people to grow their own, tying it in with cookery classes and local restaurants. So we've got great plans moving ahead. But thank you very much all for your time. It was really just to update you where we are at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for that very informative few words, and certainly it's a very worthwhile cause, and you should be proud of what you've set up and are doing. Is there anybody?
It's certainly not just me, it's very much volunteers as well. Sorry, we do have 20 volunteers who are amazing and drop in and drop out as they can. So yeah, we've got great participation from the town. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, our thanks go to the whole team. Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to speak at this stage? Okay, I'll offer it back to anybody online who wishes to say anything. I think, is it?
It's Lynn.
Yeah, Lynn Morrissey.
Lynn Morrissey.
Lynn, yeah.
I'd just like to thank our present town council for all the things that they've achieved or have got off the ground achieving. Considering that this has all been done during lockdown, I think they've done a brilliant job. I don't know how all this has managed to develop, all the list that Paddy gave us, but I'd just like to thank the town council for all the hard work that they've done and for their achievements thus far, and wish them luck for the next year. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lynn. I'm sure that the councillors present and online have heard those comments. I'll come back to the hall. So gentlemen there, sorry, I didn't.
Can I just ask?
Sorry, could we just get your name for the yeah.
Looking at the audience tonight, and even thinking back to the last meeting that the town council organised with a follow-up on bus services in Portishead, I just wonder, is there any reason why numbers attending these meetings is so low compared to ones that were held right during lockdown or pre-lockdown, where we had a full house, a full room here, and it just seems a sad situation that a lot of effort is put into organising meetings only to be supported by only a relatively few people from here. Is it because they're not interested? Is it possibly because they're unaware it's actually being held tonight? I would welcome any thoughts from anybody else, or any possible explanation. It just seems to me a sad waste that all these things are going on and it's only left to the faithful few rather than the residents of Portishead. I just think back to the last meeting, or perhaps it was the previous one, where the whole of this hall was full, and that's my question tonight. Thank you.
So sorry.
Lisa Screen. Okay, I think I can answer that. I think it's because most of the people of Portishead are happy with what the town council do. The thing is, I work in retail, and people tell me that they don't attend the meetings because there's too much red tape going on. People arguing about dotting the I's and crossing the T's and everything being timed, and you know, they're not talking about the issues. And there are issues in Portishead that people here probably aren't aware of, because I actually had to make a phone call to Cordania School today to try and protect the children. And I would like to talk to some of the town councillors about it, because as a community, we should be here trying to protect our town. There's a lot of trouble in Portishead, and I really do need to talk to somebody. But personally, I think the reason people aren't coming is because they are seeing in the papers what the town council has done. There's enough evidence there to say, you know, if they're unhappy with something, they can contact X, Y, and Z. So I think that's why they're a bit quiet. That's my personal opinion. Because I've been coming to meetings for years and I've never seen it this low. And I thought maybe it was at the pandemic. But no masks, we can be in bigger groups. I think people generally, most people are happy with what the town council are doing. That's my opinion.
If I could just respond by saying that, you know, you said that there was time limits and things. There are no time limits tonight. Anybody can speak on any subject. And actually, this is the forum for people to raise any issues or whatever that they have. But we take. Well, I can't respond to that, can I? I don't know what other people are thinking. It may well be that other people might want to, you know, to speak and tell us. Paddy, I'll come to you next. I'll just go online and see if anybody. Right. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It was about the sound. They wanted to know if you could use static microphones.
Yeah, I have to say that last microphone wasn't very good, actually, was it? So if we have trouble again, then we'll come up with something else. Okay. Is there anybody online who wishes to comment on the subject that we're on at the moment about the poor attendance at these meetings? Yes, Laura, I think you've got your hand up.
Hi, I hope you can hear me okay. Yeah, the mic, the mobile wireless mic is horrendous. I couldn't work out what was being said in response, but I think the general gist of why is attendance so poor, I feel disaffected. I'm someone who tries to get as involved as possible, and through various attempts at trying to get involved, I've just been left with a sense that there's no point. And I think after having sort of said that, I really am inclined to just take a step back. A phrase I used in a chat with one of the councillors was just about the attitude towards casual unlawfulness. And I'd give an example of that as the response to the council's response to the councillors who've had to step down, calling it farcical, calling it a silly, outdated rule. But actually, I think a lot of harm can be done by casual unlawfulness. And I would love it if going forward, Portishead Town Council would strive to act lawfully. Not least with the qualities training, which I've asked for in previous meetings, and to which Paul Gardner said it was just hygiene. So that's why I'm cross. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, can you hear me? Is that clear?
Yes.
So I'm Leslie Cottrell, and I just want to respond to what the first gentleman said, whose name I didn't get, I'm afraid. Sorry? Ray Shields. Okay, thank you, Ray. So he started this topic off. I'm attended meetings over the past 3 years, as and when I've been able to. And my experience at attending meetings has not been that positive. And I'll give you just one example. To have the vice chairman sit in a town council meeting wearing a t-shirt with the slogan on it that was on it last Wednesday, I think is inappropriate and disrespectful and possibly patronising. Now, that may not have been his intention, but it's very off-putting to see a town councillor wearing something like that. It doesn't make you feel very comfortable when you come into the building to find out that perhaps you're considered witless by him, as per the slogan. I could read you the slogan, but I'll leave it to your imaginations. I also find it off-putting when I make a point and the point is disregarded. So again, I think that my experience is rather different from Lisa's experience, Lisa as in the hall, not Lisa Stanley. And I think it's very sad that more people aren't here this evening, because this is our town. I may be a recent incumbent of this town, having moved here just 10 years ago, but I'm really happy living in Portishead. I think it's a nice place to live. It has so much going for it, so many people volunteering for all sorts of things to keep this town looking and behaving the way we all hope it will. But I feel, and I'm going to come to Laura's point now, and I like her phrasing, casual unlawfulness. I think that's a really interesting way of putting it. We're probably all at one time or another guilty of not following the law, as in we're 2 or 3 miles over the speed limit or paper and we don't stop to pick it up. These are very casual, small things. And this town council has done the town a disservice in my view, because of casual unlawfulness in saying that these councillors were resigning when they were in fact disqualified. Now, we could argue the ins and outs of this, but the law is quite clear. So it's back to Laura's point, casual unlawfulness. And I think that is a wonderful phrase that you've come up with, Laura, and I should be taking that as my own. When anybody in my sight drops a bit of litter, I'll say that's a bit of casual unlawfulness. Please pick it up, because we want our town, or wherever we are, to be litter-free, for example. Now, I could go on for an awful lot longer about this particular issue, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to take up time from other people. So I'll leave it there. But well said, Laura. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Leslie, and I'm sure we've all heard what's been said. I'll come back to anybody online who wishes to speak on this subject.
Well, I'd like to say something. This is Jenny Parry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
I'm not sure who was speaking during that last portion, as I could not see anything. I could only see Laura Porter's picture and I could not hear anything, I'm afraid. Could something be done about the quality of the mics, or could people come to the static mic? Because it's a waste of time for us to sit here watching and trying to listen if we can't hear anything. Thank you.
Certainly, I agree. It's not satisfactory if people online can't hear. So perhaps if I invite any speakers in the hall to come and use this mic, that might be slightly better. Are you able to hear me at the moment? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you fine, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll invite any speakers in the hall to come and use this microphone if anybody likes to speak. Is there anybody else online who wishes to speak on this subject? Sorry, I'll just go online first. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak on this subject? Ken, I'll invite you to speak, but could you come and speak on this microphone? I think the subject was the poor attendance at this and maybe other meetings as well, Ken. But Ken, can you use a microphone, please?
Oh,
Yeah, Ken, you can sit in the chairman's seat.
oh God, I hope it don't rub off on me. Basically, let's lift it up a bit. Oh, all right. Technology, are you all with it now? Right. Basically, I'm a silly old duffer, really. I love tradition. When I saw the opening of the Houses of Parliament every year, I love the tradition and how it's set out and how it goes, and it follows the same tradition every time there's a Queen's speech. In this hall somewhere, there's a plaque that tells you about all the chairmen of this council that goes back nigh onto the beginning of time. Some were good, some I knew, some were friends, some were not so good. But they did the best and represented this town. They all wore the Portishead chain of office, every one of them, except the present deputy chairman. The first thing he did was insult that plaque by casting away the chain of office. It might be a silly point, but I think to me, it sets the scene on the council that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anybody else online who wishes to speak on the subject of poor attendance here? And can I just confirm that people online did hear Ken?
Yes, I heard him perfectly.
Right, thank you. So is there anybody else online who wishes to speak on this subject? In that case, I'll turn to Annette. You want to speak on this subject? Annette Hennessy would like to speak on this subject.
Good evening, everybody, online and in the hall. I have to disagree with the lady who raised the first answer to Mr. Shields, because I have attended meetings for many a year, and I am apolitical. I do not support any political party, nor anyone that claims to be independent and is a political party. In the last year, I have seen such atrocious bullying online, in council meetings, and this council, under the Portishead Independent Party, brought out a behaviour policy. And with that behaviour policy, which in fact wasn't workable and they had to amend it, they tried to stop people holding them to account. Now, for no bad behaviour in meetings, they actually tried to ban me, merely for holding them to account. And if the Facebook page that I run, which holds people to account and actually puts the truth out there, was illegal or inappropriate in any way, it would have been shut down immediately, and it wasn't. And in fact, everything I put, I would challenge anyone to say it's not respectful and it's not honest, open and transparent. And anybody who isn't happy with something I've said can approach me. But what they cannot do is bully me. And there are people in this hall who have bullied me. There is almost a gang-like approach at the moment on social media regarding politics in this town. And I don't say that lightly. It is appalling what is going on. And it's not just about politics. There is a lady who writes on one of the social media pages, and most of the time her post doesn't even include politics. Now, she's a lady that I know very well. I haven't always agreed with her type of politics in the past. We haven't always got on. But I will not stand for anyone in this town being bullied as she has been online. Atrocious bullying. And so bad that I will actually screenshot the comments that are made to that lady, and I will post them and hold those people to account, because I cannot believe what's going on. And this lady is one of the senior citizens in this town. As I said, I haven't always agreed with her, and she'd admit that herself. However, when somebody who has attended meetings in the past and is aligned to certain councillors in the town, when they start saying to that lady she'd be better off riding the buses to keep warm instead of actually making notes and engaging with the community in the town, that's when my blood boils. There are councillors in this town who have used social media against their own behaviour policy, against their own social media policy, to attack members of the town. At a very infamous meeting last year, one resident who is sat here tonight was viciously attacked in this hall verbally, not by one councillor or two, but by several councillors. And what did all the other councillors do? Not say a word. And on that particular occasion, I was actually outside the hall. And I wasn't in here to defend that resident and hold those councillors to account. And I regret that to this day, that I wasn't in here. It's been appalling. And it happened actually last week as well. I wasn't at the meeting, but I've seen the video of a councillor shouting at a resident in this hall. So if you want to know why people aren't coming to meetings, it's because they are fearful of doing so. I have ended up in tears after seeing what some people in this hall have written. And the evidence is there. And if anybody wants to see the evidence, they're welcome to ask me for it. But it's been absolutely appalling. We should not have anyone in this town abused online because of their views or because they don't fit in with the mould. And for someone to accuse another resident of having a political agenda when there is nothing online in her post that even mentions politics, I find disgraceful. I could name the people, but I don't think it's appropriate to do so. I will do that on social media, because there is this gang-like approach, which I think we need to stop. And I just want to also say that statements that this council gave out to the local media actually exacerbates the situation, because the disqualified councillors, I know there's one here tonight, the rules were clear, the legislation was clear. Why it happened is perhaps it was an oversight on those councillors, but it happened. If we all go sick from work or our families are ill, we have to abide by the rules. We can't just stay at home and not fill out the forms, fill out the sick forms, report it to our businesses that we're not going to be in. And likewise, as a councillor, there are also legislative rules. And I'm not making a comment on whether it's right or wrong, but there are rules that people have to adhere to. And last year, this council told us that we had to adhere to their behaviour rules, but they don't want to adhere to them themselves. Now, I think personally that the chairman at the time, who is now the vice chairman, Paul Gardner, should have resigned for what he said to Mr. Smith, who sat over there. It was absolutely disgraceful. And if you want to see the videos, then you can find them online, or I can send them to you. He wasn't stopped by anybody. And in fact, other councillors then chipped in and added to the abuse. It was the most frightening thing I've seen, and I'm to the day I'm sickened to my stomach that I witnessed it, albeit from outside the hall. And it has continued. And irrespective of what people's politics are, and I know in the past administration had difficulties at times as well, but I don't think we have ever got to the low that we have got to now. It's been appalling. And people making things up on social media, councillors making things up on social media, is a disgrace. Yet when people highlight it, they're told that they're contravening the behaviour policy. Yet the councillors aren't told that. And when we ask, well, what happens to a councillor if they break their own policy? We're told go to the standards board at North Somerset Council. One of the current councillors, Janet Davey, actually laughed at the last administration when they told people to go to the North Somerset Council. Yet here we are, and we've got her colleagues and herself doing exactly the same thing. So what has changed in Portishead? I don't know. But this apathetic sort of turnout, even online, a lot of whom are actually councillors anyway, is just not good enough in a town of 30,000 approximately. But going back to this newspaper report, and I have spoken to Paul Jones, and I spoke to him the first time they did a report, which was written by Carrington Walker, I think his name was. And whilst there is nothing in this report that is incorrect, it seems to be a blatant. Oh, today's North Somerset Times, for those who are asking. All he has done, Paul Jones, the editor of the North Somerset Times, is print verbatim what he has been told by Portishead Town Council under the Portishead Independent Party. And there's just a few things I'd like to sort of pick out. It says that, well, apart from the fact it was pretty appallingly wrote, he wasted a whole front page because then he repeated it again on the page 2. What a waste of coverage, and I have raised it with him. He says that in the past, he said one of the councillors resigned. She didn't resign, she didn't have a seat to resign from. I don't want to make any comment on that, it's unnecessary, but she didn't resign. In order to have dispensations when you've got family illness or sickness, all a councillor has to do is fill out one form, a dispensation form. Now, when we went into COVID, the government relaxed rules, they relaxed the legislation, they allowed councillors to go online, they allowed meetings to be held in different formats. But when we started going out of COVID, all councils were told by the government that the original rules would be coming back in. So they would have to attend meetings. And most councillors knew about it. Any council that's a member of OLCA or NOLC would have known about it, as this council was. What went wrong in communication in this council is not for me to answer. But we can't say they didn't know about it. We can't say it's a bizarre rule, because it's not bizarre. And in fact, in the last administration, 2 councillors lost their seats for the same reason. So it's not a bizarre rule. It's in the code of conduct, it's in the standing orders. So there were 3 councillors, and one of whom I actually didn't get to know very well because of what happened and the fact that we went through to COVID. But there were other councillors elsewhere in the country who put in their dispensation forms. So, you know, some people managed it, some people didn't. You know, it's not a bizarre ruling, as it says in the paper. But the thing that really irritates me about this article, because it quotes verbatim what this town council has actually produced. And it says, unfortunately in Portishead, a campaign orchestrated by a few, mostly ex-councillors, has forced the resignation of our dedicated councillors because of potential personal liabilities for them. That is blatantly false. And in fact, it was a resident of this town who was not a councillor who firstly raised the problem with the councillors not attending. So it wasn't ex-councillors. To dig at another political party because they've made a mistake is wrong. To dig at residents because the council makes a mistake is wrong. And they then talk about co-opting and filling the vacancies. Well, don't put that blame on the public, which I know some have done. The fault lies with Portishead Town Council, not the public. But perhaps it's a good thing. Perhaps we could have a co-opting and we could have some people from different representations that might mix things up a bit, that might encourage more people to come to these meetings. After all, we have a chairman at the moment who doesn't live in Portishead. We have another councillor who didn't live in Portishead. So we need people from this town to represent this town. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, I'm just pointing out a fact. We've had other articles written by the Portishead Town Council which were inaccurate, again, which were written and highlighted to the editor at the time, who said he was actually going to put things right. And the only thing he did put right was that there is a legislation and there isn't any legal standing for them to challenge it retrospectively. I can only tell you the facts, but please don't let anyone blame a member of the public for us losing 3 councillors, and don't blame the past political party because it wasn't their fault either. That's really all I want to say at the moment in answer to that question. But I do feel that it's all very well for those who support a particular party to criticise others or to say that everything's hunky-dory and nobody comes along to meetings because they think everything's fantastic. No, it's not fantastic, and not at all. So, you know, please, and I stood at this meeting, I think it was last year, I'd have to be corrected if I've lost track with the pandemic, and I stood up at that end of the room and said, I don't understand why people can't be open and honest. And I think I can remember you at the time, Ken, saying to me, politics isn't open and honest. Well, I can't understand why it's not. And so here I am another year later, asking the same questions. It's vicious out there, and I'm ashamed of some of the people who actually used to attend meetings to criticise the old administration, who actually overlook everything bad that's going on in this administration. And the only other thing I wanted to correct was Patricia Sernzel when she said Portishead has a traffic warden. Portishead hasn't got a traffic warden. Portishead pays for a traffic enforcement officer who is employed by North Somerset Council. And that enforcement officer works across the county when it's required for them to do so. And that person also changes, so you won't see the same officer working all the time. So we haven't got a designated traffic warden, which is what we were promised in the beginning. Might be all sorts of reasons why we didn't get that, but a lot of people think we have got a dedicated traffic warden. That's not the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. I will come back to Tina next, but if I could just see if there's anybody online who wishes to speak. I will try and keep alternating it as much as I possibly can. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? No? Tina, I'll come back to you. John, could you operate the microphone from here so we can turn that one on and off as required? Tina, are you okay to come to that? No, if you just turn that one on and off as people need to, John. Then, is that one? For the benefit of those online, it's Tina Mason who's going to speak next.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm here tonight as a resident. Most of you will know I'm also a former councillor. I'm one of the ones who was either barred or disqualified, however you'd like to, or resigned, whatever you'd like to call it. I didn't attend a meeting in person for 6 months and 11 days for good reasons. I should have filled in a form. I didn't know I had to fill in a form. I think it's sad, though, that we are spending so much time talking about matters that to many people probably don't really make that much difference to their day-to-day lives in Portishead. When I stood for council, I stood because I wanted to actually deliver stuff for the people of Portishead. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to deliver things like, you know, the skate park that people have wanted for a long time. It's actually the day-to-day work, the activity that goes on in the background to make a difference. I wanted to hear what people had to say and try and support them. I haven't been able to do that to the extent that I wanted to for a variety of reasons. And yet we spend all of this time talking about how people bicker, social media, all the rest of it. I have posted next to nothing on social media. I started to in the early days, but I stopped very quickly because if residents feel nervous, as a councillor, it's absolutely terrifying of what you are going to have said about you. And you're almost frightened to speak up. I'm no shrinking wallflower. I have a big role in business. I'm not afraid to talk to hundreds of people. I have no issue at all. However, working on the council has been terrifying, frankly, because you are subject to personal attacks. And some of the comments that are made about councillors and about what goes on are not verified and are not correct. That I will certainly say. We should be looking at delivery. We should be looking at what we're able to achieve. I wasn't face-to-face in meetings. I wasn't for my job either for 6 months, but I still worked. In fact, I wasn't for 2 years. I was still working as I was here. It's actually the work that gets done and what people do. The bullying, if people feel they are bullied by councillors, I can only say I'm sorry for that. If people feel like that, if that is their perception, because I personally don't believe I've bullied anyone. I am not aware of bullying. I will say that as a councillor, I have felt bullied. I've also felt that I've been slandered when there have been, you've referred to the North Somerset Times, Annette, front page of the North Somerset Times, quoted a resident saying councillors couldn't be bothered. That was also unsubstantiated because councillors could be bothered. So I think, and what I said when I first stood as a councillor was that actually councillors and residents should be working together. I stand by that. And frankly, it doesn't actually matter whether I'm a councillor or a resident, because I'd still like to work with the people of Portishead to make it a better place. But the bickering has to end. The venom, whichever direction it's coming from, and personally, I don't believe it's, my perspective has been that it's not from the council, because I felt a victim of other people's venom myself. It needs to end, and we need to look on delivery and working together. And the fact we spend so much time talking about, you know, who's abused who on social media is really quite upsetting, frankly. And there's so much more we could do for this town, so much difference we could make. And actually, when you look at what's been delivered over the last 3 years, there has been a lot delivered. And I think we should be focusing on working together to deliver more of that.
Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? I know there are a couple of people in the hall who wish to. No? Does the lady over there have her hand up next to you, Bob, to speak first, or? Oh, it's your hand. Oh, right, Bob's. Yeah, can we just try and do it in turn? Yeah, Bob, do you want to come next? Bob Cartwright.
Hello, my name's, sorry, is that better? Hello, my name's Bob Cartwright, or Roberts, but everyone calls me Bob. I am a town councillor, and hi Annette, welcome to the filming world. To answer, because you always love filming me all the time, Annette. I've been filming the front of the audience.
Sorry, can we
Anyway.
have a conversation
Yeah,
between
this,
each other?
we can have the conversation later.
Don't pick on people, that's the very thing we've just been
A-
talking
Annette,
about.
Annette,
Annette, thank
Bob,
you.
would you like to carry on, please?
As for to reply to Tina's conversation or message that she's given out to everyone, she's absolutely right. This has got to stop, Annette. It's got to stop. Okay, Paul Maltby, it's got to stop. Okay, as I reminded you last time at the last meeting. Okay, because we can all wind each other up. Like you're just laughing now, Annette. So keep laughing because it gets nowhere. Same as you picked on my 10-year-old grandson, but should we bring that up as well?
Bob,
Exactly.
Annette,
This has got
Bob,
to
Annette,
stop.
please don't have a
This has got to
conversation
stop.
between-
The funny.
Bob.
Exactly. That.
Would you like to speak to the hall or not at all?
Right, it is atrocious. I quite agree. And that's the funny thing, because we've wasted an hour and 20 minutes demoralizing the council or arguing between us. And this is what I'm trying to get across to you, Annette. Because, no. Okay, I won't mention names, sorry. Yeah, Marilyn. Yeah, okay, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. All of it has got to stop, right? We are not talking about Portishead. We are talking about your opinions or my opinions or Annette's opinions or anyone else in this town. That's fine. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. We need to stop. We need to stop. Please, everyone stop. This meeting is about Portishead, not our opinions. Okay? And Tina absolutely is correct, which means that's why I stood up, because yeah, I need to take the brunt like everybody else, but this has got to stop, right? As far as I'm aware, nothing's been brought about the issues of Portishead, which is a funny thing. So as my partner said, we must be doing a good job because nothing's been raised. You haven't raised anything today. What have you raised? What have you raised? Nothing. That's fine. Can we talk? Can we talk about issues in Portishead, whether it's the bus service, whether it's the lake grounds? That's what this should be about, right? Can we stop it now? Thank you.
Annette, would you like to go next? I've noted the hands at the back as well.
This is exactly what I was talking about. The tone of this meeting went down when a councillor came and stood here as a resident. And I don't mean Tina Mason. I'm sorry, Tina. I'm not going to raise names like you have done. But can I just firstly say that it's these unsubstantiated attacks, as Mr. Cartwright used when he stood here, that brings the town down. If he wants to know why we haven't raised anything else, it's because a gentleman asked why there is a reason why people may not be at this meeting. We haven't had a chance to raise other things like the lake grounds, the Esplanade gates, the roads, the state of the pavements, lots of other things that are going wrong in this town, but we're not onto that subject yet. This is a Portishead residents meeting, and the whole meeting is about Portishead. It's about how residents are attacked. It's about the lady at the back who's been abused online by other Portishead people. I don't want to see that happening in my town. And if you think that's not important, well, I'm sorry, it is. And we stood here a year ago. And in fact, Tina, you and I both said that we should be working together and that we should be doing what's right for our town. But how can people do that when they're constantly attacked? The lady at the back of this hall, all she wants to do is engage with people in Portishead. For that, she gets bullied. And if you don't think it's right to challenge that bullying, then I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. because it is the right thing to challenge. And if I had seen more councillors standing up to hold their colleagues to account when Mr. Smith was attacked, that is very relevant. And yes, it has got to stop, so be the first one to stop it.
Thank you, Annette. I know there are a couple of people in the hall who wish to speak, but I'll just go, is there anybody online who wishes to speak? No, okay. I think there may be a message. We'll just yeah. I'll try and read the message out. It's from Anthony Sayer. I would agree with Tina that it is sad that we have these personal attacks on people who are trying to improve the Portishead community instead of getting on with why they are offered to give their time to make Portishead a better place. I know there is a lot of goodwill in Portishead and people giving much time to services here, and we should be looking at how we can support councillors negotiating with North Somerset to make things better here, such as what is going to happen about the empty apartments opposite Waitrose. Thank you for that comment. Marilyn, I think you were next. Marilyn Coots. Oh, sorry, Raina, do you want to?
Do that bit. All of you who, you sure it's on? All right, okay. Those of you who know me, and my name is Raina Knight, who don't, know that I'm not an expert at IT. So it really is very important for the town council to communicate as much as possible to everyone in the town. Now that means that there's an awful lot of people my sort of age that don't really want to touch IT to the extent that the youngster of 10 beats me into a cocked hat. But tonight, everyone mentions the Times. Now, I know for a fact that the other big paper in this area has time and time again asked the Portishead Council for their side of any question and have got no reply. The town council deals only with the Times. Now, that is not good communications. And I think that's one thing that ought to be sorted out quickly. And if you're going to communicate with any press, you deal with all of them, not just the ones you think are going to give you a good press. Thank you.
Thank you, Raina. I will try and keep alternating. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? No, in that case, Marilyn Coots.
Thank you. I was here last week and I was absolutely appalled at one resident here, Mr. Smith, who was accused of actually saying something, and in fact, of lying. I was absolutely astonished at the way that that one particular town councillor, Mrs. Davy, I may as well put her name, she actually, when he has mentioned about one of the previous councillors, he it was mentioned about brown envelopes, and she outright lied last week when she said she had not said that. I have it on my phone with a video for anybody who's welcome to watch it. She did say and accuse one of my colleagues at the time, who I know is as straight as a die. There's no way that that particular guy would have taken brown envelopes. But Mrs. Davey threatened Mr. Smith with her solicitor. She bullied him. We're talking about bullying. Not one single person stood up and said, they didn't even call her to book, they didn't tell her to shut up. Mr. Smith just had to take it. I was on the council for 8 years. The last 2 years, we had to take it. And who did we take it from? Some of those people who are councillors now. I went on, with same as Tina did, I went on in 2011 with the best will in the world. I thought I could make a difference. I think I did. I got the Wyndham Way toilets reopened. I got Redcliffe Bay Hall with a disabled compliant toilet and it redecorated completely out of the 60s. I did a hell of a lot of work. And I'm sure, I think Tina, I'm sorry that you have been disenfranchised or whatever you want to call it. I think that you were let down by your fellow councillors. The aggression I have received last week, personally, from an individual who's just been arguing with Miss Hennessy, that is the firebrand that's touching this from individuals. I'm just appalled at the way that you speak to people. I have never spoken to anybody as a councillor. I felt I had responsibility. When I was a teacher, I would not have dared speak to anybody the way that you're speaking to people. That is why people will not come. I don't know whether many people here know it, but because I disagreed with something as a Tory councillor, I signed and let set down as an independent, a true independent, not an independent group or independent party. I stood then for 2 years as an independent because my conscience would not allow me to stand by a party that I felt had issued one lie. My conscience. I hope some of you have consciences as well. With Mrs. Davey, the attitude last week that was to say she was not called to book, but what I'm suggesting now is that she immediately issues a public apology to Mr. Smith, and also, you may not want it, I kind of not blame you if you don't, and her resignation as a liar, not befitting the role of a councillor in public office. This is a public office you're in. You should be respected, absolutely respected. And I was also appalled, like it was raised earlier on, at the chairman last week, feeling it was okay to wear the t-shirt carrying an insulting message. Is this the image that Portishead Town Council chairman should be presenting in a public forum? I think not. We don't have to be done up in a dinner suit. But for goodness sake, the message, I will read it to you.
Marilyn, can I think it was the vice chairman that you're referring
Sorry,
to, not
I
the
beg your
chairman.
pardon. Sorry, sorry. He acts like the chairman. And I think most of your words are probably his anyway. Sorry if that's not true. I would engage in a battle of wits with you, but I know you're witless. And I leave it at that. That is the sort of attitude that you are residents of, that why people are not coming to these council meetings. Why could we have 100 people? It wasn't all that they thought that we were doing a bad job. But I think you are doing a bad job in a lot of respects. I also respect some of the things you have achieved. I really do. But the attitude of the councillors, some of the councillors, I mean, not all of them, some of those councillors is absolutely appalling. And it's time you grew up and stopped behaving like a 2-year-old. I have dealt with 2-year-olds, which is why I never taught them anymore. But your behaviour this evening, Mr. Cartwright, was appalling. It was rude. It was
That's all personal.
engaged in conversation. It was rude. It was aggressive, and it was pointed. You do not point out to a person in this kind of forum. You do not take an attitude and just segment that individual. You are focusing on that individual.
Sorry, Bob, if you want to speak, you can speak again afterwards.
But, you know, I'm not going to engage in a conversation with you. You're not worth it. That is my end, okay? I have had enough. I just want to go home and have a gin and tonic and settle myself down.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'll offer one more person online and one more person in the hall, which will be Leslie Cottrell. And then I will invite anybody else to change the subject if anybody wishes to. Oh. I'm also told that there's been several comments online. Perhaps I can ask Paddy to read them. Can you read them, Paddy? Because I can't see them.
Yes. I think we should move on to discuss things concerning Portishead. I don't know who they are. And somebody called Kathy. Do the people talking really think that the residents are interested in these comments?
Thank you, Paddy. I will see if there's anybody else online, and then I will try and change the subject. Somebody's got a hand up online, which is, it says iPad. No, in the absence of anybody identifying themselves, who's come up as just iPad? Okay, in that case, Leslie Cottrell, did you want to speak on this subject? And then I'll invite anyone to speak on a different subject if they wish to.
Well, if it's okay with the chair of the meeting, I'd like to move on to other matters. Leslie Cottrell. Okay, I have lots of questions and I will be putting these in writing to the town clerk, and we'll see what answers I get. So I'm not expecting answers this evening. I thought it was, before I do that though, I just wanted to say, I thought the comments that have been made this evening about how hard it is to be a councillor are absolutely true. I know that. I know how hard I worked. I know how hard I tried to do the right thing. I know there were meetings I sat in where somebody, either alongside me or opposite me, was saying something with which I profoundly disagreed. But I believe in the right to free speech. I believe everybody has a right to their opinion. I may not agree with it, but they have a right to their opinion. But the consequence of that is that I too have a right to my opinion. And so that's what I tried to do. When I was a councillor, I tried to be fair. I did work extremely hard, and I've still supported Portishead Town in all sorts of different ways, as Tina has said that she has done before and intends to continue doing so. And I'm sure other councillors here have done things of which they are proud and think they're worthy of what they have achieved. I could give examples, but I'm not going to embarrass anybody by saying, well done. Now, what I am going to come to, as I said, is my questions. Now, 2019, cast your minds back to May 2019. I didn't stand for re-election. Didn't stand for re-election because I didn't think I could do a good job. And it sounds daft to say it now, but it was because my husband and I were doing an awful lot of traveling. And as a consequence of traveling, you can't be here to support your fellow councillors. And I don't see how you can be doing a good job if you're constantly away. So in case anybody has any doubt, that's why I didn't stand again. And also, in order to be absolutely clear, I have absolutely no desire to be a town councillor ever again, because that has been an accusation levelled at me on social media. Amongst other things, the personal abuse that I have taken and my family would beg a belief. And if there's one thing I've learned, you need to have a tough skin, a thick skin. And if you haven't, then don't put yourself up as councillor. So back to May 2019. There were all sorts of promises made. There were promises made on all sides. But as we know, it's the Portishead Independent Party that achieved the majority. Absolute democracy. Democracy as it should be. However, I question some of those things. Have they happened? So people have been asking, well, we should be talking about what's going on. So here's a question then. I can remember, let me think. I think it was 2018, after I'd been chairman for 2 years, and my vice chairman was Peter Mitchell. Peter Mitchell agreed to be chairman, but only if I would be vice chairman. What a hoo-ha that created. What a lot of abuse we got at that meeting in May 2018. And yet, what do we have with the current town council? I'll say no more on that one. Somebody mentioned timings. Now again, I seem to remember the Portishead Independent saying that they were going to go for integration of public and councillors. They'd be sat round little tables. There wouldn't be this them and us situation. Haven't seen that happen. In fact, if anything, it's more them and us, because they're over there and they're over there and I'm sat down there and I really can't see who's down here or who's talking. At least when we were them and us, you know, it was them and us, but now it's sort of sideways on and it's still them and us. I just throw that out there. We still have 30 minutes of public participation, 4 minutes per person. I never could see how that worked and I did try and change that, but hey ho, that's still there. Another thing that was promised by now Councillor Davey was 2 million in S106 money. And I keep asking, where is it? What's happened to it? How have you spent it? I'd like to know. It's a simple yes or no. Did you find the 2 million? Yes or no? And if you did, what have you done with it? Okay, now moving on. Over the past 3 years, by my calculations, and I'm not a mathematician, although I do understand accounts, PTC has raised approximately £2 million over 3 years. £2 million. That's aside from the S106 money. I'm talking about a different £2 million. And they've raised the precept again for the current year, for 22-23. I don't have a problem in that. I voted in January 2019 to raise the precept. I was voted down. I don't have a problem in it being raised, but I just like to know how it's being spent. So let's have a think. And so where's all that money gone? And undoubtedly, somebody will say, well, there's been a pandemic, don't you know? Have you forgotten that? What could we do with the pandemic going on? Well, that's fine. I appreciate that. And how much did you get in grants towards coping with the consequence of the pandemic? 65,000, give or take, is what I've seen in the financial records. So if you've got some grant money and you've also got all this precept money, what's it been spent on? What is visible to me? I can't see it. I would like to know. I'm not saying you've not spent it wisely. I don't know. I would like to know. I would also like to know, as a consequence of all this money washing around, why isn't PTC paying for the skate park as demanded for by Councillor Davey in the parish poll in 2017? Councillor Davey, as she is now, said then, we'd got £500,000 of money washing around. We could afford to pay for it. There was a parish poll. The majority of people who voted said, yes, please, town council should pay for it. I have no problem with the skate park. I really don't. But why isn't it paying for it? And why is it only contributing a maximum of £50,000 in match funding? £50,000 out of 300,000 they need to raise. So if they raise 50, they get another 50. Skate park people I'm talking about, that's 100. They've still got another 200 to raise. If you've got all this money, surely there's a reason for raising the precept. Surely it is to pay towards things for the residents of Portishead to use. The last thing I'd like to mention, and I looked it up this afternoon because I thought, well, I better get this right, otherwise you'll be down on me like a ton of bricks. I note that since May 2019, we have now had 6 clerks in 3 years, including locums and Councillor Bull, who stood in as interim clerk. And that's not counting Sharon Sherborne. Sharon has worked here as assistant clerk for many years. Amazing person. She always gives more than 100%. So I want it on record.
Phone with you?
No, it's on there. I'd like it to go on record how much work Sharon Sherborne has done over many years, and she's stepped in frequently to hold the fort. And it was where I did a list month by month over the past 3 years. There's Sharon, Sharon again, Clark, who should be there for whatever reason, possibly ill, possibly away on holiday. We can't help it if we're ill, and we're all entitled to holidays, but she's stepped into the breach. So I want it recorded. So how much has been spent on recruitment? This is my other question, because we've not just had all these clerks, we've had all these other people, because Amy and Julie both said to me this evening, and I hope I've got it right, that you're fairly new. Been here 3 years. Oh, you've been here longer. Apologies, Julie. Amy said you were fairly new. Yeah. So we've had a lot of new people. We've had a lot of new staff. So I'd just like to know exactly where all our precept money is going. And so I will be putting this down in an email to the clerk, who can then circulate it as he chooses. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you so much for listening.
I did say at the beginning that if there were any direct questions to the council, that I would offer the chairman of the council the opportunity to respond or nominate somebody to respond. Would you like to respond or nominate anybody to respond? I think I've got the questions. If you'd like to respond or you wish to nominate somebody to respond to Leslie's questions. If you don't wish to, then if you're going to respond to the questions, Paddy.
Well, I'm not particularly going to respond in detail, but I know that we can certainly provide details of where all the money's gone. I think they are published anyway. I did mention some of the things that we've done over the past year. I actually talked about, the traffic warden, whether it's the same person all the time or not, we still pay for one. The CCTV cameras, the grant awards, improvements to the lake grounds, new playground equipment. So it's all there. It'll be in the record, so I'm sure we can get back to you.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think you actually responded to any of the questions that Leslie asked, but I know Leslie wishes to respond to Is it fairly brief, Leslie, just so we can move on?
I did another calculation. Remember, I'm not a mathematician. I did another calculation. The previous administration, and going back in time, town council has always given grants to local groups, which is fantastic because they do such a wonderful job. Can I suggest that each and every one of you works it out on a pro rata basis based on what income the town council has had and how much has been paid out in grants? Because that's quite an interesting thing. But what I was asking for was precise information, which is why I felt I can throw it out there, but I will write it down and then I shall ask for precise information, because on the financial statements, it says community grants and there's a figure. It doesn't tell me who's had what. And there's lots of things like that where I would like more detail. So that's what I was asking for. But thank you for responding anyway. That's it.
Thank you, Leslie. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? Oh. No. Okay, I don't think there is. Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to speak? Whatever subject you'd like to speak on, Ken.
Oh, fine, I can do this. Kenneth Smith. Leslie, if you look at last week's Times, there's a graph in there that tells you how we spent the money. The vast majority is on wages. It's got a posh name now, but it's wages. Right, getting on to subjects. When I was here at the meeting last time, I'm not an eco warrior. I respect the countryside, of course. And the eco warriors were in here the previous meeting, and I didn't understand what they're going on about until I went to podiatry and parking in the home base. And podiatry is at the Harborside Health Centre. And you walk along that road, it's a busy road, I don't know what it's called, because it's a new road. What's it called? No, the pont. Anyway, whatever it's called. And the old edge has been ripped out. Absolutely unbelievable vandalism that I couldn't actually believe. Done by North Somerset. And that's where it all starts. That's where the problem is. This town is a parish council. The district council is North Somerset, of which we, Portishead, the second biggest town, have no representative on the executive. I've said this 1,000 times. We have no councillor on the executive, which is absolutely disastrous. Because in North Somerset, they don't take any prisoners. If I wanted to build 5,000 houses, let's get real, 10,000 houses in Portishead, do you think Nailsea, Clevedon, Yatton, and all these other places are going to stick by us? No. No. If they build 10,000 in Portishead, they don't have to build as many in Clevedon. So it's that kind of infighting all the time. That's why we need representatives on North Somerset. This council likes to think they're urban district council and take all the decisions. They can't. They're a parish council. The main money involved in this town is held in North Somerset. And really, we're only trimming the edges. It's there where the battles must take place. It's there where all the big decisions are taken. And I feel that we have no one on the executive because they have this executive system where they sit around in smoke-filled rooms, a famous saying, and make the decisions. And nobody from Portishead's there. All right, so we have 3 councillors in the council. But outside the executive, in my opinion, they're just voting for it. All they are is voting for it. So-called independents, of which you're not Portishead independents, like a different, independents confuse me. They're true independents, supposedly, and Portishead is Portishead independent point. They're two different things. I'll ask the independents to explain that to you. But anyway, the independents and Liberal get together, and there you go. And most of them are on the executive, and none of them are from Portishead. So who's speaking for us? Who's looking after our interest? The voting fodder? Because there's nobody where the decisions are taken. And everything that I don't like in Portishead usually stems from North Somerset, like the Edge. I got the working party together and I said, what the hell are you taking this out for? And the usual answer is, we're obeying the last command, you know, the famous, that was voiced at Nuremberg, the famous answer, you know, I obeyed the last command. In other words, the management told to do this, out come the Edge. I don't know if any in here have seen it. It just needed trimming. And, you know, they do it when the birds are nesting. All the eco warriors were going mad in here about it, you know. And I think we were let down badly. And I think we're constantly let down badly by North Somerset. We really are. And until we can get forceful people on that North Somerset Council who stand up and be counted for Portishead, nothing will ever change. Oh, by the way, I don't particularly bother too much about what people say about me. I've said 1,000 times, this is my House of Commons. I speak freely in here, and I expect people to speak freely to me. If you want to throw a few brickbats at me, fine. As long as it's in here, as long as it's within this building, I don't mind what people say, because I can give as good as I get. Thank you for listening. That's all I'll say tonight.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to speak? Oh, sorry, gentleman there. Sorry, I forgot your name. It's Ray Shields. Yeah, would you like to speak again?
Some years ago, I came to one of the resident meetings and sat at the back. And remember, I think it's done. Well, I'll name names. It was Peter Burden ran the meeting, and there was low. As I said earlier, this room was full, and lots of the issues were on anything to do with motoring, parking, speeding. Well, they were the main ones at that time, and of course, Portishead was only small. It was about half of what it is now, and there's still loads of people commenting about the issues of parking, and that was the main issue. That was the main items, and I think I seem to recall them saying at that time, "Oh, we will look into this." And report back. Well, I lived in Portishead for 30 years, so I've seen the way it's developed, and it does worry me with all the increased housing is the issue of the car and how we deal with it. I'm sure all of you have been right round the town, and there's all manner of places where parking, even officially or unofficially, causes problems. I was on a gentleman who was on earlier was talking about, I think he thought he might be talking about Harbour Road. I was on a bus in Harbour Road at lunchtime today, and we know that there were problems down the marina, and so that's why the buses didn't go around the marina now. But the bus got to the end near the entrance to down where you go down to the academy gym, and the bus got stuck because of because of parked cars and awkwardness of drivers. And the driver and quite a couple of the car drivers had a slanging match. And the only way that the situation was eased was that all the people coming in the opposite direction went up on the pavement. And so, because the driver said, I can't go on the pavement, you'll have to. And so we sat there for quite some time. And it's that sort of thing that worries me. And of course, that is an area where, in the course of time, we could have a railway station. And in this, as somebody else mentioned earlier, there's the apartments further along Harbour Road, and that's all going to increase the car situation. And that's just one of the things that we should have been talking about tonight, rather than the issues of council. Right, that can you leave a council meeting. This was a meeting of residents, and I think we should be, it's at this meeting that all these issues should be raised. And that's all I wanted to say. I would welcome any other comments from anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. I mean, that is what we're on to now. If anybody wishes to speak, I will keep offering people online the chance to speak if they want to. Oh. There's a gentleman with his hand up. You're coming up as iPad. We can now see you, but
that's me. Have you got me?
Yeah.
Have you got me?
Yeah, we've got you. We haven't got your name though.
Good. Chris Holman.
Oh, Chris Holman.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, Chris.
I haven't seen you for a while. What a shambles tonight. Mind you, not as bad as the 9th of May 2018, when our meeting occurred. Mrs. Cottrell turned up with her chain of office, put it on the table, asked for her vote from the people to run the meeting, and we didn't want her to do it. And what happened? Well, they voted against her. So what did she do next? She closed the meeting with a room full of people. And there she is telling everyone of how awful this committee is. Then I just found it incredible that she had the nerve to stand up there and slate everyone when her and her councillors prior to 2018 were a total and complete shambles. They wouldn't let people speak. They tried to stop us from getting into the hall when we were looking for the skate park position. And we managed to get the doors open, didn't we, Paul? And that is what happened. Yes, it's the past, and we don't want that future back. Yes, we might have to clean up this new committee, but they're trying hard. We've had lots and lots of problems with COVID, etc., but we're not getting the money from Western. Western are spending our money. The residents are not getting what we want. And I think in the future, the residents should be doing more. How we're going to do it, I really don't know. But Mr. Smith was right. Western is the problem. And the problem after Western, who has got Nigel Ashton causing problems, he always did in the past. And of course, our dear old friend, Liam Fox. Good old Liam Fox. Yes, he's working hard for us. What has he done for Portishead in 30 years? Absolutely nothing. I hope you've all heard it. I hope you realize what I'm trying to say. Politics in general are a disgusting and valueless position. And we don't want politics back into Portishead. So for goodness sake, in the future, let's try and keep our councillors away from politics and getting back on board to put our town back in the right place, cleaning up the lake. Forget about the railway. I've been waiting 54 years for that railway, and I'm still not seeing any further. Thanks to Mr. Fox, who's done absolutely nothing for us. We're going to continue in that way. Junction 19, a total shambles. That's back to Western again. They don't know what they're doing. I told them what to do, put a bridge over the top for Portishead to come in and out properly. What have they done? Spent all that money there messing about, a complete shambles. I think I've said enough tonight. Thank you, everyone. If you don't agree, I'm sorry, but that is how I've seen it since I was here at 16 and now I'm 74. So you can understand why I feel so angry at times. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for everyone. And no thank you to the previous councillors, because they were a shambles. They did do nothing for Portishead. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Paul. Good night.
Thank you, Chris, and it's nice to see you back, albeit online. Can I just say that I would have allowed Leslie Cottrell the opportunity to respond, but she has left, so I would have allowed her the opportunity to respond. Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to speak? Annette?
Yes, I just wanted to explain to people who may not know, but at North Somerset Council, there is a committee, and I had a conversation with someone from Radio Bristol recently when they were trying to get rid of their mayor in Bristol, and they wanted to go back to the committee status that we've got in North Somerset Council. And I said, they'll all be the same, whether you've got a mayor or a committee system, you always end up with the same problems because you end up with the same financial output of all the salaries and the executives. And I don't think decision making is much better either. But with regard to North Somerset Council, who in fact has just lost its independent leader, Don Davis was actually a true independent. He stood and was an independent, not part of an independent political party. I don't know why he's actually resigned, but he has done. And so they have a little bit of shift around there now. But in Portishead, we have 6 North Somerset councillors, one of whom is independent, who was stood and voted in as an independent. That's John Cato. And then the rest were Portishead independents, except for Hugh James. Hugh James is a Liberal Democrat. I'm surprised that there are no district councillors here tonight. Usually we have some district councillors at Portishead residents meeting. We haven't got any at all. One of the things that concerns me is that, one of the things that concerns me is that, and this is not any dig at any council, and I think that with both administrations, you always end up with good and bad. That's unfortunately life. But we, as a town, are paying through our precept to the town council far more for North Somerset Council services than we have ever paid before. So the traffic enforcement officer used to be paid by North Somerset Council, and we pay through our council tax for that. CCTV was never paid for by the town council. And yes, I do agree that sometimes if we don't get a service, there is some leeway to actually paying for it. But at the same time, how much is North Somerset Council now leaning on our town to pay for everything our town needs in its town? It's a little bit like the roads. We had this council paying and contributing towards the roads. We're going to contribute towards zebra crossings. At some point, North Somerset Council, someone needs to stand up to them and say, our town is the second largest in the county, deserves more. We deserve to have North Somerset Council using our council tax money for services and facilities, not to come out of our town council precept. And the more that the town council pays for North Somerset Council responsibilities, the more North Somerset Council is going to expect them to. And I was a little bit disappointed, and I'm all in favour of the Wills Park, as you know, Ben, as one of the key figures who are getting our Wills Park, hopefully, down the lake grounds. However, I didn't agree with the lease on the playground because Portishead Town Council has now put in for the lease on the playground, as well as for the site that the Wheels Park will go on, which means we're now taking another facility off of North Somerset Council. Now, they may give us a little sweetener to take it over, but eventually we're going to have another financial burden. And so that does concern me. There may be rights and wrongs to it all, but as a resident, I'm concerned. And with regard to Harbour Road and the railway station land, which I don't think we'll ever see as a railway, as I think the majority of people in Portishead won't, what does concern me is the mass development of Old Mill Road and the Wyndham Way area. And when I say mass, it is mass. And North Somerset Council are now leading on this project. Aberdeen Standard, I want to just shift back a little bit. North Somerset Council are leading on it. And I'd like to know what our councillors are doing to actually stop that development before we get the necessary infrastructure. Now, I have heard local councils saying, oh, we don't agree with development without the infrastructure. The same councillors who have put videos online actually promoting development on Old Mill Road and Wyndham Way. And when I say development, if it's anything like the development they've discussed before at a 3-day hearing in Weston-super-Mare, they were talking about 7-storey high properties with retail underneath. There's no guarantee that's going to happen this time. It may not do, it may. But what worries me is that is going to happen. So lots of people are fighting to save development on green space, which I agree with. But what we can't have is Portishead in the central area, which is now called North and East because it'll encroach onto the marina. We can't have this area any more developed with or without infrastructure. I spoke to someone today who cannot get an appointment at a doctor's surgery. And it really concerns me that our schools, our medical services, all the partner agencies that provide care in lots of other ways are under such stress. And how is that going to be improved by building even more properties on Old Mill Road and Wyndham Way? So I would only say to you, ask your councillor, what do they think? Do they agree with that development, as some of them have said they do? Or will they say no, no development? Because let's all remember that in this town council, which the current town council forgets, the last administration did have its flaws, there's no two ways about it. This council has as well, but we have a resolution in place in this town which says no more development without appropriate infrastructure. And a lot of people don't know that. That resolution's never been revoked, it's still in place. So they have got to stand by that. And if they don't agree with it, then they must change that resolution and put it to the people. It's as simple as that. But if you hear any councillors talking and supporting development, whether it's brownfield or not, then I think you've got to ask them, what are you doing about it? It's not good enough anymore to say, well, we're going to try and get the necessary infrastructure, because at North Somerset Council, they won't sure that's happened. They haven't ensured it's happened before, so I can't see it's going to happen next time. And it's just a concern, and I just feel we keep raising it and we keep saying to people, a lot of people in the town don't even know about the Wyndham Way development, even though there was a consultation which was a bit flawed. So it does worry me how this town is going to change and manage when that development happens. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I understand there are a couple of messages which I'll ask Paddy to read out. Can I just also remind people that we need to finish by about 10 to 10, so we've got about another 25 minutes, but still plenty of time. But I'll ask Paddy to read the messages that we've got online.
There's a message from Guest. For goodness sake, how many more personal attacks is the chair going to allow? This is outrageous. Completely agree, Kathy. That's exactly what this meeting should be about. A message from Nicola Holland, because we were told there were no district councillors here, and Nicola Holland is of course a district councillor, and she said, I'm here. And just a minute. And a message from Laura Porter, which said, the profile only shows your name as Nicola and no photo, so probably not obvious. I didn't know. Also not sure who guest is. I don't think any of us are. And a message from Anthony Sayer, good to hear facts, didn't know before. Could be anything. And a message to Kathy, from Kathy, sorry. That was useful to hear, thanks Annette. Is that it?
Thank you, Paddy. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the meeting? No. Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to address the meeting? Gentleman at the back there.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I'm David Cook, resident of Portishead. I'm not going to say very much. First of all, in answer to one of the questions that Leslie Cottrell raised, I'm sorry she's gone, she raised the question of how the town council was spending its money. First of all, that is in the accounts which are published or online. So that's a simple answer to that. However, I would say that this council is raising and spending considerably more money than any previous council. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, but accepting that the last 2 years developments have been severely hindered by the pandemic, the council and everybody else, what we do need to clearly see by next year is what the benefits to Portishead are of all that additional spending. That's the very important thing for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the meeting? Is there anybody in the hall who wishes to address the meeting? If there is nobody else online and there is nobody in the hall, that oh, certainly can, sir. Yes.
Ray Shields again. All right, yes, as I said before, I believe would say afraid. And it just saddens me that it's all sort of it's completely independent of politics at the moment. It seems to be the audience here tonight is either ex-council members or existing council members rather than the residents. And it's the residents that we should be addressing. All the people on the Vale, all the people on the marina, all the places where people live. We are residents, and much has been said tonight about how good Portishead is. Yes, it is in a nice location, but you know, it's always been quoted as the biggest car park because it's only got 400 to get people in and out. And I just think it's sad, I repeat myself, that we've only got this number of people here. And is it going to get back to, sorry, is it going to, what's been said, is it going to get back to the people of Portishead? All right. I don't like Mrs. Rain and Knight. I'm not fully IT, so I'm not fully onto social media, and so all I can pick up information is from what I see. And to my mind, since the pandemic, I don't think really the Times does itself justice compared to what it was pre-pandemic. At the moment in time,
it just seems to be features on things, and all the issues of reports on what the town's doing, or even advertising what the future events is not. There doesn't appear to be anything. I can look through the Times and think, what a waste of time. And when I spoke to the editors, they just said there's nothing, nobody's submitting anything from Portishead. That's why Portishead doesn't get reported. In the village news, Portishead used to have large items, that things that have been happening, things that are happening. And now it just seems to be Clevedon, Nailsea, nothing about Portishead. And I don't think this meeting, to my knowledge, wasn't in the last issue of Times. So how would people, other than social media, yes, I think personally, social media has killed these meetings because it's all on Zoom, and so many people sit at home, just like all this to do with working from home. They can sit at home and watch what we're doing, and only a few people have contributed tonight, and so even by people picking up the link and sitting at home, yes, fair enough, they can do that, but we don't know who's sitting at home, and you see a picture, and I think it was mentioned earlier about the issue of bus services, and we had a similar meeting like there. We had a follow-up meeting on the question of bus services, and we had a similar number of people here, and that's another meeting that I don't think was mentioned particularly widely, which is, and I spoke to people afterwards. I didn't know about it. I'd come along, and I think on the subject of the changes that were made to bus services, that meeting that was held at Somerset Hall, there was 120 people there, and all complaining about bus services, and a report got into the Times, that one, and they were all complaining about the changes that were made to services at the January, and there were subsequent changes in April. There was no mention. There's no timetables up anywhere, and all that people say is look online. I rest my case. This is everything now is online. Not just here, but you only got to read the papers to see how problems of getting things, because if they're not online. So that's all I want to say. But I just think that explains a lot of what we've sat here for tonight. That people don't necessarily have to come along. They just say, "Oh, we'll watch it. We'll do everything online." Sorry, that's what I want to say.
Sorry, I think the comment was made about councillors and ex-councillors being here. I tried to do a very quick count up, and I think it's just less than 1/3 of the people here and online are either councillors or ex-councillors. The rest are residents. I did say that I'd always give Paddy the opportunity to respond if it was a question, and there is a question that Paddy would like to respond to.
Yes, I haven't got an answer, but I can say that, no, it's a response. I can say that our council staff worked very hard to try and communicate with the public. This meeting was in the North Somerset Times, it was in the Resident. We do put notices up on all the notice boards, and the same goes for the annual town council meeting. I know they do their best, and if you can think of a better way to communicate with people who aren't online, we'd love to hear it. But quite honestly, we're out of ideas because a lot of people don't get the North Somerset Times anymore. We've lost the Clevedon and Portishead paper, whatever it was called. So yeah, if you've got any ideas, please tell the council.
No, thank you, Paddy. There is a message from Laura Porter. I think I can just about see it. It says, and I've managed to participate at home whilst getting my 6 and 7-year-old kids into bed in the background. Hybrid meetings enable me to participate. I'm glad to have the facility. So think so many people just have government fatigue. I can't vocalize this in the room, trying to get kids to sleep, but still here. Thank you, Laura.
This is from Kathy. I didn't attend in person as the Facebook advert said spaces were very limited. So that's why I'm online.
Thank you, Paddy. I think Sue Mason would like to address the meeting.
Thank you. I would just like to respond to Ray, and I'm sure everyone else as well. At a recent meeting that the town council had with North Somerset, this is a series of regular meetings that we have, and we were talking about buses, and I then mentioned about the bus stops because of course a lot of the buses don't go where they used to go, which means that you have bus stops that have a notice board and even a bus shelter occasionally, but there is no timetable on that. That means that no bus goes past that stop. And I have asked, and North Somerset are going to take it back, I have asked them to put on any bus stop where there is no service going past it, that they put a notice on those bus stops to say that the bus does not stop there. Because of course people stand at a bus stop thinking that a bus will come past, and then it doesn't. It perhaps goes the other way on the other side of the road, but not on their side. So they are taking that back, and I'm hoping that they will then put signs on those bus stops and on those bus shelters. I've also asked that they change where they have put the bus timetables, because I was saying they are right up in the top left corner. And if, like me, you're only 5'4", sorry, I'm 5'4", for anybody my height or lower, and you are sort of looking right up in the air to try and read a bus timetable. So I've asked if they will put that in a different place. So hopefully that will answer a lot of people's questions. The other thing you mentioned is North Somerset Times. Excuse me, and that often there is nothing in there. I also haven't seen anything in there lately, especially in the, I've forgotten what it's called signposts. So I put in a notice there a couple of weeks ago for an event at church on the following Saturday. And I thought, will it go in or not? But it went in last week, and there was a whole page of things going on throughout, and also Portishead, and also the the notice that I asked to be put in. So I do know that they do it. I know for some time that there has been nothing about Portishead and very little general news. Well, I'm hoping that now things will start to change and there will be much more in the signpost, because that's what people look for and read, and that's what we want to see, that what is going on. So I'm hoping that the paper has somehow sorry, obviously something's being bitten, behind me, but I'm hoping that it is now much better, and hopefully things will be there. Yeah. Yes.
And if you want to speak, mate, you need to come to the microphone.
I don't know. I know that they always used to be invited, but yes, I am being told that they are still invited, but I don't know that they've actually got the actual staff to come to all of the various meetings, but I know that they used to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. There are a couple of people who wish to speak in the hall. I think we've got about sort of 10 minutes left. There's also a message up. There's two actually, which the top one says, still concerned at what is happening about the big block of empty apartments opposite Waitrose. And the second one, which is from Carolyn Watkins, says, it's supposed to be affordable housing, but I don't know when they will be available. Sorry, I didn't say who the first one was from. Can you just scroll down so I can? And the first one, sorry, was from Anthony Sayer. I'm told by Paddy Sterndale that they believe it's June. There was 3 people with their hands up in the hall. I think, Bob, I think you were first. I said, I don't wish to hurry people, but we've got like 10 minutes left.
Right. Yeah, just a few things. With North Somerset Times, as I believe, they no longer can afford for obviously their photographers and reporters. That seems to be the case. I think they're really tight for money, and maybe that's probably why the paper's a lot thinner than it used to be. It's a real shame because it is a point of communication for the town council, as well as the residents and what goes on in Portishead. And it's a real shame that we have to rely a lot more on social media. I remember Annette bringing up that point itself, and I think she's absolutely right. We need all sorts of communication because there are elderly in the town and there are young people in the town that we tend to miss. And it's all about involving everybody, not just certain individuals. Thank you.
Tina Mason had her hand up next.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. I just wanted to say we've spent so much of this evening talking about what I would describe as the art of politics. So about how we work as a council and things like that. And I know as a resident, and I mean, my view is the same as a councillor, but as a resident, I'm very much interested in, matters that have been raised this evening: parking, development, how we're spending our money, the buses, Western Bigwood, what's happening there, things that are going on. As a suggestion, next year, would it be useful as residents to come up with a list of things that people are concerned about to actually drive an agenda for this meeting, so it doesn't just turn into a sort of an art of politics discussion and a sort of a slanging match between different groups of people, but actually have an agenda that we can then go through as residents and talk about those different things that we think are important. And if we're able to give a council line of sight to that before, they may also have the answers ready for us, and potentially we could get more from it as residents by doing it that way. So just a thought.
Thank you, Tina. I think that this has to be an open forum rather than a meeting with certain agenda items. Annette, do you want to
Yes, just to say, we actually tried that in the past agendas, and it actually became more politically led than it did if it was a residents' meeting. With regard to advertising this meeting, in the past, we have gone round on bicycles, in cars, putting notices up everywhere because it's not been done. But I do feel that there's gaps. And I'd love to know from one of the councillors tonight, is there a notice board or more than one in East Portishead? Because East Portishead is so dense now with residential properties, I'm not sure the message of what's happening in Portishead is getting to them. And I'm not aware of any notice boards in East Portishead. Is there one? Oh yeah, I'll let you answer in a minute. Can I just go on, answer very quickly? Yeah. I just want to give an email address.
Ben, you're just going to answer that one quick question?
One question. Just Ben Aldridge, the town councillor. There is a notice board in East Ward. It's Trinity School.
Oh, no, I know about that.
However, it's
No, I
not
meant
the
in-
council's.
Yeah, I meant on the marina.
On the
Not
marina?
Not the Trinity, yeah, Trinity School on the edge of the village walk, isn't it?
The marina, no.
No,
There's
no.
not. No, there's not.
So I think that's one of the problems, that we haven't got this town covered, and I think Ray is correct that we haven't got, not everybody is on social media, and a lot of people feel a little bit sort of ostracized because they're not on social media, or they're not online, or they can't email. We do assume that everybody can do it, and they can't. The other thing I'd like to say is those who are on email, the editor of the North Somerset Times is a gentleman called Paul Jones. Sadly, he doesn't live in this area. He lives in South Somerset, and he controls 3 papers. But if you do want to write to him to ask for a little bit more of Portishead in our paper, his work email address is paul.jones@archant.co.uk. He did say he was going to try and change and improve the North Somerset Times. I've yet to see it. And of course, we have got the Bristol Post as well. But the other thing is I do feel the upper part of Portishead is missed as well at times. We used to have, I know we've got them up on Avon Way, there's notice boards. I don't know what we've got up further up towards Chalcombe Park. And I know you can't put things up everywhere, but people do stop and look at notice boards. So the physical paper advertising meeting is still a really good way of doing it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Annette. There are a couple of comments online. One from Anthony Sayer says, excellent idea, Sue. Carolyn Watkins says, well said, Tina. Perhaps notices put up at doctor surgeries and in cafes would help. And I know that Sue Mason wishes to just speak very briefly.
I can say that in the past there were 10 notice boards throughout the whole of Portishead. During the last council, they decided that they wanted to cut them. I fought very hard for the one that I was looking after, which is the one in Queen's Road by the Methodist Church, and I managed to get that saved because I knew people actually looked at it, read it, and I've seen Ken Smith busy reading that and others as well. So I said, please, I want that one kept. But the total now is only 6 out of the 10. So, and I think that perhaps it is something that the town council can look at again and expanding them. Now, I do know that we have actually managed to get another one back that was taken away, which is one at the top of Avon Way. And I know that Bob Bull sitting there at the back, he fought very hard for that one, and that one is back up. So there are now 2 still at the top of the hill. But yes, I think now we definitely need more around the town so that people, when they are walking around, are able to actually see what is going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of our time. We have to vacate the hall by 10 o'clock. Can I just thank everybody online and everybody in the hall who's come tonight and made comment. Can I also just thank the admin staff who have come tonight to help us out, and And also John, who's done a astounding job, so we can all hear. Thank you, everybody. I'll hand back over to you. And I think on the agenda, it's for you to close the meeting, Paddy.
Yes, just before I close the meeting, we asked at the beginning if anybody had to would like to nominate a charity for us to give the money to at our Jubilee event. If you can just shout it out, then I'll repeat it because we can't be sending the microphone around everywhere. If there aren't any nominations, then I would suggest Portishead in Bloom, Christmas lights.
Can I put forward the youth club?
Youth club.
Youth club.
Right, so
and I'm sure at some point in time I'll have my moment to say how I feel so passionate about community.
just a minute. Nobody online can hear what you say, and I'm afraid the public. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, in that case, it's a toss-up between the Christmas lights and the skate park. I'm sure Ben is delighted by both. No. So, Christmas lights. Yeah, I'm sorry for the people online, but because we've only got about 2 minutes left, we're just having a shout out for nominated charities. I think we've maybe settled on Christmas lights. I sort of missed the last bit. Split it between Christmas lights and the skate park. Is that okay, Ben? Can you have 2? That will satisfy your right. Right, as it's just coming up to 10 o'clock, I would also like to thank Paul for chairing the meeting. It's not easy to do it online as well. And thank you everybody for coming, and hopefully next year we'll get more people in here to our next residents meeting. So thank you, good night.